Alrighty, let's go. G'day guys, welcome once again to the tripod. This week we'll be breaking down round 10, doing a round 10 recap. Was a very, very good bounce back round. I guess not really a bounce back round because we did have a slight winning week last week, but we were copping shit all over the joint for having the worst round in the pod history 2 weeks ago. But we came back with a slight winning round last week, and now we've had an absolutely fantastic round. 24 wins and 8 losses on best bets. If you've been following us all season and been putting $100 on all of our best bets and $50 on all of our multis, you'd be well up over $2,000. And like we see in the group, a lot of people are putting on more than that. So, I mean, if you're one of those guys that's putting on $1,000 a best bet, which isn't crazy, we have people in the group putting in, $15,000, $20,000 bets. But even if you're putting $1,000 on each of our best bets, you're well over $20,000 in profit just for this season. So that's $2,000 a week. That's not too bad. What do you reckon, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, there's even that one bloke who put $1 million on Labor to win the election. So there's all sorts of big bets going on. And we had to face up and admit,
before you start going on about the NRL, we should touch on that very quickly. One dude put $1 million on Labor to win the election at $1.20 to win $200,000 in profit. Obviously, that lost. But what else you would have seen is obviously the Liberals have won the election now, but Sportsbet paid out early, which I find quite funny. They paid out early. They paid out, I think, $1.3 million early on everyone that bet on Labor because the Labor price came in to something like $1.12, so they thought it was a foregone conclusion. Paid out on Labor and now obviously have to pay out on Liberal as well, which is kind of grim for them. Obviously, it's more of a marketing stunt. I don't think they would have accepted that much money on the election, but still in the millions of dollars.
And what they're paying out on the coalition was some, long odds at certain points. And it is pretty fascinating. I heard a few years ago that, the betting market was the best prediction of any election result around the world. And it was very rare that a short favourite ever lost in any election because there's no better predictor than kind of people putting their cold hard cash down. And actually, the odds for this election was quite similar to the US presidential election. 3 years ago with Trump, if people recall, we know he's the president of the US, but he was $6 or $7 even on election day, a similar sort of thing. So it goes to show there's no such thing as a certainty. So sorry to the bloke who lost $1 million, but we won a bit of that back depending on your stake size. Maybe you won it all back this weekend. We did something this weekend that we will never do again, that we've never done before. We gave out 33 best bets. You mentioned we won 24, we lost 8, we had 1 push. I tell you, we could have swept 33-0. We could have swept every game, and we're going to talk about them. Anyone, feel free to look this up and comment and disagree with me. Look at every single best bet we gave out. 24 of them won. The other 9 were all shorter than $1.50, probably $1.30 in live odds. Like every single bet we made, you were happy with through those games. Probably right even at half time, you're happy with almost every bet we made. That even the ones that didn't win were in great position. But we will talk about that. But shall we start with the game that just finished now?
Let's start with the game that just finished. And it was Manly surprising the Sharks 24-14 at, it's now called PointsBet Stadium, not Shark Park. I guess we had a slight lean to Manly in this one. They were catching 4.5. We kind of wanted the 6. The line never kind of got up to where we wanted it to be. But Sharkies, very, very disappointing performance from them. Dugan, let me tell you this. I know he's a rep level player. Dugan was woeful. And it's like when you have one of the best fullbacks in the comp, Tom Trbojevic, out, Brendan Elliott takes his place, not second grade dude, but backup level dude, and you get completely outplayed as Dugan by Brendan Elliott. That is embarrassing for me. One other thing I'd like to mention, I guess, Manly, they just put in week after week, and despite losing Turbo, despite putting Cherry, they put in week after week after week, and Des Hasler's got them playing very, very solid football. One other thing I'd like to mention, Chad Townsend. I know a lot of people have been tooting Chad Townsend's horn over the first sort of 9 weeks, saying, he's playing awesome, blah, blah. Let's not forget, this guy isn't great. And today kind of showed he's not a fantastic player. He's not going to, he's not even the best player on the Sharks team. And until they got all the troops back, I think they are going to struggle. But Manly, dead set, despite being down on troops, find themselves in the top 8. It might be mistaken, which is amazing to me, losing your 2 best players.
Oh, you have to respect Manly, and we've, have not given them enough respect in their ratings. We would have been on them today. we knew they had troops coming back, but we also knew key guys out. And what kept us off them was Coruscant, Brad Parker, who've actually been two big contributors, couldn't finish the game last week and had injury clouds. We didn't want to take Manly and then find out they had more guys who couldn't play today. We stayed off them, but bloody impressive. And if you watch the game, I mean, Cronulla has run there of 10 straight penalties, plus more repeat sets off dropouts and, balls knocked down. It was 6 to go. And I'm watching going, they're going to crack them here. They're going to crack.
Yep.
And Manly just kept turning them away and actually just stifled the Sharks. The Sharks had nothing. Now, Manly got a couple of lucky tries, like scored twice off, bombs that bounced their way, but still, they were excellent. And you mentioned Townsend. He has been really good this year, but it was his worst game of the season today. And the Sharkies are another side that will get more key players back in. These two are both sides that I think are, should be top 8 based on what we've seen after 10 rounds.
Oh, for sure. And then let's rewind to Thursday night. We had the Storm beating the Tigers in what was a really entertaining game, 24-22. Tigers actually should have won that. We only had 2 best bets on the game. We go 1-1, and really unlucky, I feel, to go 1-1. We had obviously the Tigers plus 13.5, which was really never in doubt. And the first half under 18.5 points, and obviously they land on 20 points. But the Storm should have lost that game. Chambers goes in, 3 minutes to go. But the Tigers were very, very solid, and that's what we kind of expected out of them. I guess I know that the Storm had an awesome win last week, and that's why we felt like the line was a little bit inflated. I think it was the biggest win of the season so far in terms of margin. But let's not forget, the Tigers beat a Panthers side who, despite, obviously we saw what the Panthers were this week, and it doesn't look as impressive now. But 30-6, they beat the Panthers, got a little bit of confidence in them. And this Tigers side has been playing very, very solid footy. And to be honest, very, very unlucky not to win that game. I did think they were the better side for the majority of the game. Yeah,
you have to take the Tigers seriously. The Storm have only conceded more than 20 points in the 80 minutes once this season. That was on Thursday with the Tigers getting 22. They've conceded over 21 of the time. That was 20 all, and then off Latrell field goal in extra time. So you don't score over 20 points against the Storm easily. And the Tigers in, past weeks and last season, the hallmark is the defence, and their attack was what limited them. I've got to say, Benji Marshall is still playing at a higher level.
It's crazy.
And that is a side that, you have to respect, and they covered easily. Our losing bet, you mentioned under 18.5 first half. There were only 2 tries in the first half. There were 4 penalties. And one try was completely out of nothing. And we should talk about this Ryan Pappenhausen, because plenty of the lads in our group filled up on him any time try scorer. He breaks the game open there with an 80-meter try out of nothing. And that was only in about the 20th minute. That was the first try of the game. And that kind of really put our unders under pressure, and ultimately was our only losing tip that night. Let's think about this.
He brings a spark in offense. He reminds me of Billy Slater a little bit.
Well, actually, funny you mentioned that. Think about that. If Billy Slater had won a run around one more season, he'd be the Storm fullback right now.
Oh, for sure.
If Drinkwater doesn't tear his pec pre-season, he's the Storm fullback right now. If Jerome Hughes didn't get injured, he'd be the Storm fullback. Pappenhausen's 4th cab off the rank. And was scaring teams. And the commentators in the second half are going, Storm need to get the ball to Pappenhausen to get him back in the game. Where are they just finding these guys? I don't know. It's amazing. It says something about their development and recruitment. So gutsy win by the Storm, another close win. They've had quite a few, especially at home. But Tigers, unlucky, but we'll respect them moving forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And then next cab off the rank, we had the Warriors beating the Panthers 30-10 on Friday in the early game. We had 7 plays on the game, went 7 out of 7, and that was kind of, I guess, the carryover or the start of our 14-0 run on best bets. And finally, we got off the Panthers train. I guess everyone would be kind of telling us all season long the Panthers are shit, blah, blah, blah. And, we could see that. We watch every single game of the NRL every single week. We could see the Panthers are playing shit, but it was very, very tough for us to get off the Panthers, because every single line for the Panthers seemed to be a little bit inflated just because of their record, how bad they've been playing. The public didn't want to bet on the Panthers, so we were getting good prices on the Panthers team. But in this one, we had a line that was essentially saying that these two teams were equal. We didn't think so, or at least, we thought that the Warriors had been playing, at least better than the Panthers. We knew that the Panthers probably had a better roster on paper, but we had more faith in the Warriors to actually show up, and that's exactly what happened. Nikorima was absolutely fantastic, and I think, dead set, sometimes that's all it takes, and it happens in every single sport. Sometimes you get these players that are stuck in a rut at a certain club in a certain city, and they don't seem to do anything, and all it takes is moving to a different scenery, different team, different coach, and sometimes they can thrive. And I know it's been a short, 2 games for Nicarima, but it looks like he is enjoying himself there a lot more, and he is playing better footy, and he seems to have fit into there like a glove. So very, very good win for the Warriors, and very, very good win for our best bets going 7 of 7. It's been very, very rare this season that we've gotten a game right and actually haven't lost a bet that we've put on.
Yeah, it seems like even when we're completely all over a game, a team will score 2 late meaningless tries and crush our bets, but all of them won basically without sweating. Yeah, Nicarima looks good on the left, and of course RTS is always ever present and such a threat. I like this Warriors squad, and Isaac Luke came back in, and he's a bit of a catalyst for this Warriors team. When he's, running the ball and threatening, the rest of the team goes as well, so he improved them. And the Panthers, no cohesion, no confidence, and they were terrible, and things have gone from bad to worse. But to defend, the fact that we've bet on Panthers a few times this season, I mean, it's easy to say now, you should have known weeks ago, but I still go back to 5 or 6 weeks ago on Friday night. They completely outplayed the Bunnies and could have beaten them.
Yep.
And we'll talk about the Bunnies in a couple of games' time playing as good as anybody. So, the NRL is a close competition. The Panthers' issues are psychological at this point as much as anything 100%. Else. But it was a great time to go against them. We had value on a Warriors side that is another team I think can push to the top 8.
Indeed, and next up, I'll get to what was my favourite bet of the round was the Broncos plus 6.5 against the Roosters, or we had 7.5, and they do get the outright win 15-10. Let me just go through my last 3 favourite bets of the round. The Storm last week covered the line by 50 plus. The Broncos last week covered the line by 10 plus. The Broncos this week covered the line by 10 plus. You've got to get into the grind with the Roosters, and 15-10 is a grind. If you let it get into an open game, spread the ball around, they have too much talent to beat you, and that's what the Broncos did. I mean, it's easy to say. You have to have a pretty solid forward pack, which the Broncos do, and they did get into the grindhouse. They had 60% of possession. They controlled the ball well. They made the Roosters make errors. 69% completion is not normal for this Roosters team. Generally, they're up in the mid to high 70s into the 80s. They were 69% completion for this one, which isn't normal for a Roosters team. The Broncos put pressure on them, and the Broncos deserved to win that game, to be honest. They had 200 plus more run meters in the game. The Roosters were not up to this, and to be honest, at Suncorp, it just seemed like too big of a line for us. 7.5, we had to take it. Once again, same as the Warriors game, we go 7-0 in this one. It was a great start to the week for us.
Yeah, and most people saw the game. If you didn't and you just saw the score 15-10, yeah, I echo what you said. It was not a lucky win, and Roosters were the first to admit they were outmuscled, and we expected that the Broncos forward pack could win that battle there. The Broncos forward pack is the real deal. It's honestly, and it's a lot of young players who are only getting better. I mean, you got multiple young guys there throwing their name in the Origin ring. Unfortunately, 100%. Most of them from New South Wales, but
yes.
Broncos were too good. Milford is re-energised and complemented so much more by Dearden, but I won't talk about the game too much. I really want to just highlight this game from a betting perspective. We spoke about this. This is your classic pros versus Joes, or as we say, sharps versus squares. You talk to your man on the street who just watches a bit of footy and talks to people at work. Who's going to win, the Roosters or the Broncos? Bloke on the street is taking the Roosters. Every single bloke 100%. On the street. And,
100%.
The line's -6. Yeah, but they'll win easy money, the Roosters. But the bloke on the street doesn't win easy money off the bookies every weekend. The bookies want these blokes off the street betting, and the bookies aren't going to give you good value on the public side as the Roosters. So for that reason, it's why you often get value on the underdog. Now, the bookies don't want to give easy money to pro punters either, and if they did, that line could have been 8 or 10. So it's still not easy for us, but it is often where the value lies, that they will shade that, because while the pro punters might put bigger bets down, on a public game like that, a Friday night spotlight game, the weight of money that comes in and in multis and just from all your general public punters is always going to push the value towards the less popular side. And, you speak about the talent disparity, and Broncos have a couple of key guys out, but Latrell, almost ineffective.
Yep.
We knew with his groin injury that would be a concern. They did miss Cordner. I spoke about losing the forward battle. Of course, that hurts when your captain, your best forward is out. And Jake Friend, you miss him in a game that's tight. And so that helped Brisbane. But yeah, it helped us too with 7 wins out of 7 best bets.
Oh, definitely, and I'll just add. I know how you said, we've been we've buttered our bread and we've gone 59, or maybe it's 59, maybe it's ticked up to 60 now % over 4.5 years on best bets, over 3,500 best bets. This isn't a small sample size. We know what we're doing here, and I guess people, 2 weeks ago when we had our worst round of the absolute season, our absolute worst round in 4.5 years of the pod, they were like, "Oh, you guys need to reassess what you're doing. You need to change what you're doing, all this stuff." And we kind of knew, look, maybe we have to deep dive a little bit more, but look, we've been winning on best bets for a long, long time, and people were saying you need to stop betting on the Broncos, stop betting on the Panthers, all this kind of stuff. But I do think that, as a general rule, it's still very, very true that betting on the non-public side that the public does not want to bet on is going to be profitable for you long term. You can't do it blindly. But in general, if you're betting on the side that the public is against, you are going to win more money than you're going to lose, that's for sure. Next up, we had what was an upset for us and a pretty grim loss for us. This could have rolled our best bet winning record to 20 in a row. We had the Bulldogs beating the Titans 22-16. We had 4 best bets on the game. We only went 1 and 3, which was very, very grim for us because, the Titans are up 16-0. They're looking like they're going to absolutely dominate the game. They're up against the worst team in the comp. People can argue with me about that, but I still think that the Bulldogs are the worst team in the comp. You're at home, and you concede 22 straight points. Absolutely diabolical performance by the Titans. Really, really disappointing for our best bets, obviously. Peachy is bad. I'll tell you that. He's coming off the bench. He's playing like 55, 60 minutes a game, and he makes just fucking terrible decisions. It's been 2 weeks in a row that he's been pretty, pretty bad for this Titans team. So really, now, I know we had really high hopes on the Titans to start the season. We really liked the roster, and we still do. But it just seems like their heart is not quite there. And it might be getting to the point of the season, and their record might be getting to the point where they might be starting to fade away hope that they can actually make the 8, which is disappointing because really we thought that they had a team that could contend and could certainly make the 8. The Bulldogs are the complete opposite. They have a roster that they probably knew were never going to make the 8, but those guys play with heart for full 80 minutes, and it showed in this game. And to come back from 16-0 to win, to put 22 straight points on away from home is a very, very good effort, but I guess it speaks to both sides. It's a positive for the Bulldogs that they can put on for a full 80 minutes. Very, very disappointing from the Titans.
Yeah, we did have high hopes on Titans coming into the season. I said they'd make the 8, and you can say that was misguided, but neither of their halves, we knew were injured going into round 1, and they didn't get their starting halves for the first month. They've had so many injuries to, rep level forwards. Shannon Boyd didn't play in this game. Ryan James ACL for the season, and they do miss him, and that's huge. And Jared Wallace has missed games, Proctor's missed games, but that's excuses. That is excuses with the injuries they've had. Yes, exactly. And they were up 14-0 against the Tigers, blew that game as well. We gave them one more chance after they blew a second half lead against the Sharks and cost us 3 best bets last week. And in this game, you felt, you're in a good spot, and we need to stop, or you need to stop calling the Dogs just, with no disclaimer, the worst team in the comp, because on the back of what Penrith did on Friday, by the measure that they have the least talent, you can say, but they are putting in every week, and the Dogs would have beaten Penrith and probably a couple other sides if they played this weekend. They are a tough side. They're not a side that we rush to bet against every week because we know they win ugly. But still, there is no excuse the Titans letting the Dogs back in the game like they did. And they just, Tyrone Peachy comes on, tries to do it all himself. I hate early tackle count kicks on the goal line where, I didn't get it, I got it and I didn't score, so I'll drop it on my boot for a miracle try because I'm off the bench and I want to prove a point. And Peachy did shit like that.
75% plus chance that you're going to score to do that.
And Peachy drifts across field aimlessly, and then the worst part is when it doesn't pay off, then he misses whiffs on tackles down the other end. Titans, not only did they have ineffective sets where they could have actually extended their lead, but how many times did they come up with such a bad fifth tackle option that it ended up in a break down the other end for the Dogs? And even then it was a close loss. But we had some great bets in that, like Titans to score more than 3 tries. They had 2 in the first 20 minutes to win the game by more than 3. Yeah. And you're up 16-0. But that's just disappointing for the Titans and for us.
Oh, and what's been a disappointing kind of season for us, I guess. But let me just backtrack for a second. I know I just laissez-faire fucking throw out that the Bulldogs are the shittest team in the comp. I do still truly believe in it. And I mean, if I asked you, is there one team that, let's say, we're playing this Saturday on a neutral venue, I give you $1 million and they're playing the Bulldogs, would you put, you can choose a team to put it on, or you can choose the Bulldogs, you can choose their opponent. Is there one team that you would actually, put in there that you would back the Bulldogs to beat them on a neutral venue next week? I honestly don't think there is.
Yeah, no, you're right. And we release power ratings every week, and they are at the bottom for a reason. I just think give the Bulldogs a little bit of, give the Bulldogs fans, something.
They're very, very good effort. Very, very good effort from the Bulldogs. And next up, we had the Cowboys beating the Eels 17-10. We had 4 plays on that one as well. Once again, went 1 and 3. The Eels had chances to win that game, I swear. They were up 10-6. They get the early try in the second half. Kind of grim. We have Eels winning at halftime or full-time at 6-all at halftime. Then the Eels score early in the second half, I think pretty much straight away. And they look like they're running the ball harder. They look more confident. And for some reason, they just let the fucking Cows hang around and hang around. And in the end, the Cowboys squeak out a fairly close win, which is pretty much the only wins they've been getting this season. I know, I was pretty high on both of these teams at the start of the season, but to be honest, I really do think that the Eels have proven themselves as the better team than the Cowboys in the first 9 weeks. But it wasn't to be here. And let me just say one thing. Taumalolo, you're a fucking monster. You are an absolute monster. You're the best forward in the comp. Yet last week you don't do shit when we have the Cowboys against the Rabbits. Yet this week you put up 233 metres against the Eels. And I know that's normal for him. He should get over 200 metres. But to be honest, couldn't we have just flip-flopped those results? But yeah, very, very good effort by the Cowboys. I mean, they are at home. And once those forwards get a roll on, I know that, you mentioned that some of them are sort of over the hill and aren't playing their best footy. But now with Taumalolo back, McLean's playing pretty well. Matt Scott probably, honestly, had his best game of the season, this weekend. And once those sort of 3 and that forward pack gets a roll, and it's very, very tough to stop, especially at home.
Yeah, well, and that is just one of the tough parts about punting. And for us, we're giving tips nearly every game. And for your everyday punter who punts every weekend, when you bet on a team and they fail you, on any given weekend, and then the next week you go against them, we've all had it where, now you show up. They show up a week later and then they cost you money 2 weeks in a row. And the way you described that game is how I feel. Very frustrating because we had the Eels as underdogs. We got them +4. We got them plus half a try. Leading halftime or full time. It's 10-all in the 72nd minute. But even before that, they were winning the game 10-6. And for this Eels team that conceded 11 tries against the Storm, you just wanted to be sure they were going to show up for this one. And they only conceded 1 try in the first hour of this one. They were fully in it, as you said. They looked good, and the Cowboys are limited. I know people can say the Cowboys had 3 tries in a row disallowed by the video ref, but I think they were all fairly disallowed, and I think that speaks to how
it was the same thing every time. Yes,
their attack is just not sharp, and there's a reason why these lead runners are bowling people over, and they're not clicking because they're limited in attack. But the game flips at 10-all, with 8 minutes to go, with an unforced error, trying to throw a bad pass, right at the line, and Fergo drops it. I don't think all the blame was on him, but the Cowboys literally pick it up and score. And that flips the game, and they won the game by 7, and we lose all those plays just like that. When, we don't need to win the game. That's the beauty of taking an underdog plus, half a try plus 4 points. Teams aren't even looking to score a try in that point of a game. And, it's so frustrating if you're laying that number of points. Usually a team isn't trying to score a try, but we're catching it. We can't get a break in any of these close finishes. So that was a loss in this round, even though it was a good round overall.
Oh, I'm dead set. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, and probably you don't either, but I feel like 90% of close games or close bets have gone against us this year, and I feel like it's the same every single year, yet we are still, close to 60%. Next up, we had the Rabbits beating the Raiders 16-12 in what I thought was probably the best game of the round. We went 3-1 on our best bets. We pushed the one bet, which was Raiders plus 4 points. Obviously, they lost by 4 points. I thought this was a fantastic game. The Rabbits have shown that they are one of the best teams in the comp. I don't think anyone can argue that they have shown that they're a top 4, top 3, possibly even top 2 side in the comp through the first 10 weeks. But this game showed me something else. This game showed me that the Raiders deserve to be in the top 4, and they can dead set make the grand final. They were not fully strength. They were not full strength here. They were missing a bunch of people. I know they were at home, but to put on that effort against a Rabbits team that has been arguably playing the best footy out of any team through the last 6 weeks or so, Cody Walker has been absolutely fantastic. I think he's, they said he scored or assisted on like 2/3 of the Rabbits' tries, and they've scored more tries than I think anyone else this season. Maybe apart from this week, because obviously they only scored 2 tries in this one. But the Raiders are very, very solid. Ricky Stewart has got to be so proud. I don't know what he's done in the off-season. The defense is great. The fitness is great. They can put in 80 minutes every single week. And I know I'm probably spending a bit more time talking about the Raiders than the Rabbits this week, but I guess most people are talking about the Rabbits most weeks because they're winning, and people sort of brush over the Raiders. But honestly, this Raiders side is very, very good. I expect them to be top 4 come the end of the season, especially when they get all their troops back. Very, very solid performance. And, it just goes to show that, you say kind of, what makes good teams? And I don't think anyone can argue that, the Raiders and Rabbits have been playing one of the best footy through the first 10 weeks of the season. 84% completion rate for both teams. Not just one team, for both teams. And I think that's what made it so entertaining. There was little errors, very, very high quality game. It's rare that you even get one game where one team is 84% plus completion. Both teams were 84% completion in this one. Very, very solid game. It showed me that both teams were worthy of the top 8, top 4, and playing finals footy.
Oh, it was a complete contrast to the game before. Yeah, it's funny. You come away from that game, and I agree, even though there was no tries in the first half, like a defensive battle, it had like Origin or, a finals footy feel to it. Definitely felt like both sides of top 4. And yeah, completions is great, but for me, both sides are so good defensively.
Yep.
And in the end, the Bunnies won 2 tries to 1, and all 3 tries were quality tries because they had to be to break down the defence. You had to be impressed by really both sides. And
Cody
the Bunnies
Walker's try was a little lucky, but anyway, yep.
Which one? The try that Damien Cook laid onto him. What was lucky about it? I thought that the touch that Damien Cook and Cody Walker have been in has been unbelievable. Cody Walker is making it impossible to leave him out of the New South Wales side. And the Bunnies, they stayed resilient when they conceded 8 straight penalties in the first half. But yeah, when you talk about the guys who are out, so for the Raiders, Tapane, Bateman, Leilua's out for the season, but also Rapana. You got all internationals that are going to come back in. Kotrick had his game of the season. We said we loved the move of bringing him closer to the action in the centres, and he did break the game open for the Raiders try. And the Rabbitohs, they're missing 3 of their backs that should have been in their back line in GI and Johnston and Braden Burns. Obviously, GI's retired, but Johnston and Burns will come back into that team too. So, of course, these sides can go a long way. And if you didn't see the game, the Raiders were banging down the door right at the end, down 4 points. They broke the line. Croker's literally basically falling over the line to score, gets the ball ripped out. So if you didn't see the game, the Raiders could have easily won. But it was a 50-50 game. So again, we're a little unlucky. We lost our plus half a try because they didn't get that try at the end, and we only pushed plus 4. When that game, probably deserved to be level after 80 minutes.
Yeah, and really, we should have swept the game. I know it was like probably a 50-50 that Croker holds onto that ball and crashes over the line. If he does, we sweep the game. If he doesn't, they still had a full set of 6 with, I think, about a minute to go, and they had chances there as well. So, next up, a sweep to end Sunday. We had the Knights beating the Dragons 45-12. We had 4 best bets on the game. We do go 4-0. Obviously, the Knights absolutely obliterating 45-12. Mitchell Pearce probably had his best game of the year. Kalen Ponga probably had his best game of the year. Obviously stitched up a Queensland jersey. Obviously that was probably stitched up already. Look, in betting sometimes
unless you were picking Darius Boyd. Well, I think Ponga's had his name on the one jersey for a fair while.
Thank Christ that he has retired from rep footy. Otherwise, I would have lost my mind if they actually did pick Darius Boyd. But it's funny. Like, I heard this thing today that they... I don't know if it was today or maybe a couple of days ago, where they were saying like Steph Curry in the NBA is one of the most like underrated superstars. Like he's a top 5 player in the NBA, but because he's small, because he's like not that physically imposing, people kind of underrate him and don't give him as much respect as they probably should. I think Kalen Ponga is similar. The guy is a superstar. The guy is an absolute superstar. He is by far the best player on this Knights team. Look, in betting, sometimes you have lucky wins, sometimes you have unlucky losses. This was neither. This was an absolute obliteration by the Knights over this Dragons side at home. Oh, sorry, in a neutral venue. The Knights had over 500 more run meters than the Dragons. That is a great win for the Knights. Four in a row for the Knights, 4 wins in a row for the Knights, 4 losses in a row for the Dragons, and now they seem in serious danger of missing the 8.
Yeah, and we spoke about a few times, alluding back to our terrible, terrible round 8, and we got a lot of criticism, and one of the criticisms was you keep backing the same teams.
True.
And, that is something that just that style of handicapping, that if we believe a team is underrated and, and then they don't put up a result and we believe there's reasons for it that they can correct, we will stick with sides. And, the Knights, you said they've won 4 in a row. We've been on them all 4. And, they were underdogs in this one. I think they were underdogs 3 of the 4 that they've won. So we've been riding this train. And, you can sing the praises of Mitchell Pearce. He's been awesome the last 4 straight games. Sure. He's led by example. And Ponga. Any player looks amazing in an absolute carve-up, which today was. But they're great players. But I thought it all starts with the forward pack. I mean, the Dragons, the games they've won this year, their forwards win the battle. But the Knights forward pack, we've said, is very underrated. And they got on top. And, conversely, it made Ben Hunt's afternoon miserable because he can't do much when he's there on his own in the halves behind a forward pack that's getting out-muscled. They got a little bit of a letdown during the week with Jack DeBellin losing that hearing, and he's going to be a while away. And that's a guy they miss, as is Widdop, as is Corey Norman. But we were surprised the Knights were underdogs in this game. So, we had 4 best bets on them. We probably should have had more, but a few of the totals weren't available to us earlier in the week until it was too late. So well, we can't complain. It was winning 4 out of 4 best bets, I guess, this afternoon to round out a great round 10.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you look at 24 and 8 and you think, oh, that seems decent, but it's like, I guess 75% on best bets is very, very tough to do. And we've done that this week and we've bounced back. And hopefully you guys have all put some money in your pockets over this week. We'll be back next week, 6 p.m. on Wednesday, to break down round 11 of the NRL. We are back. I feel like we're seeing the ball a little bit better. Sometimes it takes us a few weeks to kind of get in gear, and that kind of showed this week. But yeah, I guess I forgot to mention at the start of the week, as we said, as we say most weeks, make sure you're in our group, Tripod Punters Tips Forum. Make sure you're in our app. You can just download the free Tripod app from the Google Play Store or in the App Store. It's completely free. That's where we post all of our tips. And one more thing, they are removing sign-up bonuses if you don't have all the bookies that you absolutely. If you don't have numerous bookies, you should have 5 or 6 or maybe even more. But the federal government has passed a law that on May 26th, which is in exactly 1 week time, they will be removing all sign-up bonuses for new customers. So if you should want to sign up to as many bookies as you can before that deadline. Otherwise, you won't be getting a sign-up bonus after that. So if you need any help with that, feel free to give us a message on the Tripod app or on our Tripod Facebook page. That's the best place to reach us. Anything else you want to add, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, the bookies don't put the odds in your favour. There's a lot of factors that are against you as a punter, why punters most lose. One of the things in your favour is getting a sign-up bonus and getting that head start, and obviously being able to cherry-pick promos. And they're getting a little stingier here and there with promos, but the more sites you have, the more promos you can jump on. And obviously, as we show with our best bets, being able to get that best number, like
100%.
The +4 we got
100%.
on Raiders, when most people couldn't get a +4 on Raiders, unless you could shop every bookie. It helps from time to time as well, obviously, and getting the best price. That all builds into the difference between winning and losing. So yeah, big week. If there's a few bookies you're looking at eyeing up, well, you might as well sign up while you can double your deposit or more, than wait a few more weeks. But hit us up or look in our group because we can get access to some good offers. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you again Wednesday.
See you Wednesday at 6 p.m. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.